3, 2, and 1. AM 1150's Business Spotlight, Tim Wahlberg. Jim Martin, Friday is here, Jimmy. And
TGIF.
the weekend is upon us.
Yeah. Hopefully it's going to be nice this weekend. And
super terrific. The big festival in Vancouver is happening this weekend.
Absolutely. The 40th annual.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah,
the
started in
wine festival.
1979, benefiting the Playhouse, which is no longer in operation, but it's the Bard on the Beach, which is Shakespeare down in Vanier Park in Vancouver, right on Falls Creek. Or
it's a beautiful
English
setting.
Bay. Oh, absolutely gorgeous.
For Shakespeare. Done it
so they've been doing that for 5 years now, and so far the totals have reached over $1 million. Last Saturday was the opening with the Bacchanalia Gala, and it raised just over $200,000.
Oh, my goodness.
With silent auctions and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's going to be great. If anyone's heading down this weekend for the wine festival, have
if
fun.
you can find tickets.
Yeah, it goes quick.
They go quick.
Jim Martin is the senior product consultant with the Metro Liquor Group. You know where Metro Liquor is, across from the train station pub, right here in Kelowna, right across from Prospera Place, Ellis and Clement. Metro Liquor. And also in West Kelowna, right across from Bylands on Ross Road. Hey, Jimmy, we're smelling it today.
Oh,
the studio is alive.
Blue.
It's blue.
The studio is alive with the smell of blue cheese.
Blue cheese. David Baudouin. He is the squeaky cheese guy. He's in studio with us. He's also a consultant with the Dairy Farmers of Canada, squeakycheese.ca. David, welcome back.
Thank you
David.
so much, Tim. Jim, such a pleasure to be here.
I think we're going to call this Fromage Fridays now.
Oh,
yeah, let's do it.
Well, we just talked about the wine festival, and so many times wine and cheese. We hear about a wine and cheese. What's the perfect pairing for wine and cheese? We're stepping outside of that box, and we're going beer and cheese today.
And what could be a better pairing than beer and cheese? When you think about it, yeah.
It's perfect sense. And you guys are on this. You guys you're not behind the curve on this at all.
Oh, no, because I love to have a nice beer. Whether it's summer or winter, there's always a good beer to have. And it's a good thing to have amongst friends as well. Or with the boys.
Exactly.
Just get that cheese out to go with it. Yeah, it's easier than wine, actually, to pair with beer.
Beer has so much more complexity than wine, too. You know, Cabernet is Cabernet, but as we see now with the craft beer, if you got a pale ale or a IPA, it can be done so many ways, infused with whatever, and that's totally changing the flavor. And the type of yeast they're using can totally change the flavor, too.
Absolutely. Because cheese is also
fermented as well, too. Yeah,
but it's a fermented food, just like beer is a fermented food. And nothing healthier than this.
Right.
Like, we need to get on it. It's good to have a beer a day. It's good to have a cheese a day.
It is, right? This is part of your message, David, to a lot of people. Cheese is our friend. It's not our enemy, is it?
That's exactly
Doesn't matter what cheese is it. If there's any blue veins in there, it's still our friend.
Yeah, cheese is not your enemy. Cheese is alive. Cheese is breathing. Cheese is changing.
Well, what
every
makes that
step
healthy?
of the way.
Why is that a good choice for us to eat? And there are good cheeses and bad cheeses, though, right?
Yes, and also where it comes from. But the milk is the key. And milk is a whole food. It has everything in it to keep the human growing, healthy, and happy. So if you're stuck, there's a big storm rolling into the Okanagan Valley, but you did hide with your cow or your goat or whatever animal that makes milk, or your wife, who knows? You know what?
Well,
you will make...
Mother's milk cheese. Okay.
So, in the end... Yeah, it's a whole food, and it's preserved into cheese. Plus, it's fermented, so really good for you. And if the animals are happy, healthy, and they have good milk, you know what? It's worth preserving and eating it.
And we have great cheese producers in the valley here.
Oh, amazing. It's growing so much. BC is one of the fastest growing in the country.
What are some of the producers that we may know of or they may not know of?
Oh, well, I could list them all. There's a whole bunch, but all the way from, actually, just the border. We go from Creston all the way down to Vancouver Island. And even some of the island, like the Sunshine Coast.
Right.
So, yeah, they're all over.
So how would somebody find some unique cheeses? How would somebody find something off the road
Well, the best thing will be to go squeakycheese.ca and figure it out from there for sure. Because
Make a road trip.
I'll be educating, but road trips is the best. Go around, to the small stores that really care for like getting some farmsteads cheese or artisan cheese, and then you'll discover some new ones. But they're out there. Go to the farmers market because not all of them are big, but some of the big companies make really awesome cheese too. So there are benefits to both, and this is why cheese is not your enemy.
What are some of the obstacles as to educating people about cheese? Because a lot of people think cheese, okay, belongs between two pieces of Wonder Bread, put it on a pan and seared off.
Yeah, Wonder Bread as well, of all things. Oh, nothing to say against it, but I do love my bread with real yeast. There's a few people around, and some of the cheese you can find, like Waterfront Wines Cafe.
Yeah.
Like Mark Filato makes amazing bread, if you haven't. And there's Okanagan Grocery as well. Like,
Absolutely,
pair that with a beautiful cheese, you got some magic there.
Absolutely. So grilled cheese are absolutely wonderful. That's why we have like grilled cheese and wine and events like this.
And you're working with wineries now too.
Oh, absolutely. So even if you own a winery and you need like to educate your people and have a good time, because it's all about education, transparency. There's no BS, to lack of better terms. But yeah, we just say the truth and get the right information to people. So hey, just come and give me a shout.
Well, you're preaching to the converted here, man. We're cheese lovers, beer lovers, foodies.
I'm still always into trying something different with cheese. There's not been too many cheeses I do not like, except for one.
Well, what is it?
Well, it was one German cheese, and it stunk so much. It was really hard to
The old
eat.
sweat socks.
To go past that smell. Okay, in Canada, we don't call them stinky socks cheese. We call them cheese with character. All right?
There you go.
So it gives a little bit of a better perception to it because it's never really that appealing.
No, of course not. All right, so if you've done the wine and cheese with your friends or your family or your dinner parties, switch gears. Maybe it's this weekend, maybe it's next weekend, but we're introducing to you, and this isn't by any means a brand new concept, and we know that, David. David Baudouin is with us, the squeaky cheese guy. We're going to do a beer and cheese tasting right now with us. So what do we need? We need glasses. We need some knives to chop up some cheese. We're going to ask you about where to get these cheeses. Get your friends maybe to contribute. They can bring us some beer. We're going to do sort of a light, and a medium, kind of a pale ale, and then we're going to do a stout. So you got a range of beers, and you want a range of cheeses to go with that, right?
Yes. And the one thing when you do beer and cheese pairings, okay, the first thing to know is you're having an experience. So when you bring cheese to the table and real food, get people around you. Have a good time.
Put some music
on.
on.
This is what's about. It's connecting human being together, and food is the best thing to do this. And cheese, there's so many stories to tell about it. The beer's the same way. So that's all about sharing and finding. So don't try to get to the perfect match right away. Just go out and play. Get out of your comfort zone.
And nobody's wrong.
That's right.
Nobody's wrong.
Because everyone's palate is different.
Exactly, yeah.
We had a crooked coast. Jimmy, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say what kind of cheese you have for us, but let's start with the beer. First one up is the Driftwood Crooked Coast. Crooked. I've already had a sip of the beer, and it's already getting to me.
Early beer and cheese. I love it.
So Driftwood Crooked Coast, it's an alt beer, but it's tasting quite like almost like a Kolsch to a pale ale. It has some nice dark color to it. So what cheese do you have to go with this?
Oh, I could have brought like 3-4 different cheese, so we could have a really good time. But hey, we have only so much time, so I chose one. And I went out of my comfort zone because with a beer like this that has a little bit of bitterness, but it's still wheat, what we need is we need to bring funkiness from the cheese to match that funkiness in the beer. So that's how it would go. First of all, I would get cheese working from milder to stronger when you taste so that your taste bud gets accustomed to it. And same with the cheese, same with the beer. And then I try to match intensities. That's a really good thing to do. but work the contrast as well in the beer and in the cheese. So if you know your beer has bitterness, get some sweetness in the cheese.
Okay, you want that contrasting element. Okay.
Contrasting is a great thing. You can go with similar elements, but in my palate, I love to have a party. So
or have a fight in there.
That's
Let 'em
right.
Fight it out
So
too.
if somebody's doing a beer and wine cheese or beer and cheese tasting, have a couple of different types of cheeses with each beer and to see which one people
the
like
more
best.
the better.
So there's
right.
no right or wrong way to do this.
Okay.
Do you start with our light beer? Let's give us our beer. Our cheese. We have our beer. We've got a lighter beer. What are you starting with? What are we starting with?
So I went out to go and bring some earthiness from the rind, a cheese that on the inside the paste is kind of sweet. Just go a little bit with that bitterness in the beer, and then match the funkiness. And this one's been aged a little longer. It's Bella Stella cheese that's right here in the Okanagan, actually off the Okanagan near the Monashee in Lumbee. And small cheese plant, the guy's been making cheese since he's 10 years old in the Alps. An amazing guy with such a great heart, and he needs everybody's support here in the Okanagan. So you can find this cheese at the farmer's market for sure. There's definitely a few stores that carry his cheese as well. But
Okay,
look
hand
up.
it over.
Excellent.
All right, go for it. Come grab one.
Oh, okay.
So is this a brie? We're talking about a brie here. So we're starting with a brie to go with our lightest beer.
That is correct. And then the cream to it. This is only Jersey's cow's milk. So you're going to get nice sweetness and a good amount of fat. And for the ladies out there listening, if you're scared of that fat component in cheese, just remember, when you have it and you feel so good because it's so creamy and you're happy, that is health right there. Plus, it's more flavor. And you know what? For the ladies, it just makes your skin shine. So why invest in so much cream when you can have it just by eating cheese?
This is a cheese advocate, of course. This is beautiful, the creaminess. And it goes so well with the beer. And you're right, there's this contrast right off the bat. I love that.
The creaminess, that milk, the cream, the fat in the cheese, and the hops, the acid in the beer, pair just nicely together.
Yeah. The only problem is that I had a sip before, and now I had the cheese with the beer, which is so awesome, and I still have like the muskiness of the cheese coming through.
Absolutely.
Which is awesome. And then in my breath, I can even also like taste like the alcohol and everything. Yeah. So breathe in just like you do with wine. So you get fully the aromas coming through. And the more it sits, the more it is. But now you need another sip to actually fully rinse that fat off from your mouth and keep enjoying. So,
and when people have brie, sometimes I've seen them, they've cut the rind off.
yes. Well,
are you a rind eater or not?
Absolutely. Every one of them cheese, I eat the rind. Actually, I enjoy going through from the inside all the way to the edge. And I stop just before eating the rind. So I get like that where all the money is. Just before that edge and the inside base, like that's where the money is. That's
what rind should we not eat? Or is everything up for grabs?
Yes, actually, no, there is some rind that you shouldn't eat, and they're not called rind, they're called wax. Okay. So on Gouda, just avoid that wax.
You know what that is.
Yeah.
The distinction, right?
Worst case scenario, it'll come out the same way as it came in. So. But
we've moved on to the pale ale now.
Yeah.
So we started with a lighter beer. Now, if we had more time, we're going to push through this because we're getting close here with our clock. But would we go with our lighter beer? We would go down the aisle of cheeses, or we kind of stick with that one. Then we move on with beer, and we move on with cheese at the same time.
Yeah, but I suggest that you try different cheese to go with your
with
beer.
All the same, starting with the one beer, right?
And talk about it. Share your experiences because every one will be different.
Yeah.
Now, just smelling this beer as opposed to the Crooked Coast, this has a little bit more intensity to it on the nose. A little bit more hoppiness.
Big hops, yeah. Yep, definitely.
So something not as fatty?
In my book, like the more fat is the better. Yeah, absolutely.
No rules either, right?
Exactly. So, for me, fat is flavor.
What do we take?
So second one, let's go for the Gouda. This is Smiths & Co. W. So Smiths & Cow. They're in Chilliwack. And this is farmstead cheese as well. You
my
will
God.
get the butterscotch to this Gouda, for those out there who would be Dutch. It's a Dutch family, and they moved out here, I think, 5-6 years ago, set up their farm, just like they're used to do back in the Netherlands, but they've learned their trade from families as well down there. And they never work on Sunday. I love that concept. But every other day, they're always working. Ron is an amazing cheesemaker, and he's learned by doing it more and more.
This has got incredible saltiness, which goes so well with this.
That's a
pale
good
ale.
contrast right there. And
Yes.
do you feel like the crunchiness to this cheese?
Yeah.
Those little crystals, right? Those little tiny.
Is that salt or was
So
that
what is it? What do you guys think it is?
I think it's like, I don't know, some sort of crystallization. It can't be salt, can it? Or could be. I don't know.
rock salt or?
It's an amino acid.
Okay.
And as the cheese breaks down its protein, what happens is you get that crystallization. And for Gouda, this amino acid is called tyrosine. And for cheddar, it's called calcium lactate. So they're two different ones. So that's why in the Gouda, they're bigger, they're crunchy and stick to your teeth almost. And this is a really good sign of aging for a Gouda like this.
That's magic.
That is delicious cheese.
Oh,
That is beautiful.
isn't that like
Beauty.
That's the best Gouda I've ever. How would you pronounce it?
Smits and cow?
Well,
Gouda.
Gouda, Gouda.
Gouda.
Yeah. And this one's only available at Waterfront Cafe. So, and around to restaurants because, there's Cisco Kelowna that delivers lots of the smaller
it's so good.
cheese factories now. Yeah.
All right, we're not going to move on to the stout. We do have a stout here, and then, of course, you would go down the line of cheeses, match that, pair that with your stout, and talk about it and share your thoughts and ideas because you're never wrong. But we do have some pale ale left over. I want to try that blue to see how the pale ale goes with that blue because this is a bitter pale ale.
Yeah, well, we can try it. Yeah,
Absolutely. Go
but,
wild.
but typically, what would you have with the stout? A big, dark, rich. This is the Old Yale Sasquatch Stout, which is going seasonal. If you like it, you better buy it soon. What would you have with that? Would you
Yeah.
have the blue or something?
My favorite would be blue, absolutely. And the creaminess, the funkiness, oftentimes like the chocolate notes that are in stout like match so well with blue cheese. If the beer has some sweetness to it, it works super nice. The more
sweet too.
fat in the cheese, the more alcohol you can get as well, which this is not super huge in alcohol. But Lil Qualicum's blue that we have today, this blue has had a overhaul over the last year. And
It's so beautiful.
so
It's non-offensive. It like a lot
No.
of people just can't do a blue because it's so in your face.
and it's not overly dry like a Stilton. There's still some creaminess to it. Some
sweetness to it
yeah,
as well, but there's
quite.
a beautiful balance. in
Looks
that.
gnarly, and it gives you that, there's a cheese board open right there because he's the one who brought all the aromas in the
Right.
room.
He's filling up the studio with the smell. Man, that is great. So experiment with this beer and cheese pairing because you can have some real good fun with it.
Oh, man.
It's easy to get cheese. Ask around. Find out where your friends are getting their funky cheeses from, but shop around. Boutiques, take a drive, take a road trip, go to squeakycheese.ca, find out where, you've got a map there of all these great cheese factories in our region.
Is there a
BC.
retail shop in Kelowna or the Valley where you can buy?
Well, there's
some
a few
cheese?
for
Some
those
good
who are
cheese?
downtown. The small ones is one big table. My friend Julio down there has
On
a
Alice
few
or
of the
St. Paul,
local
on St.
ones.
Paul?
Exactly.
In St. Paul?
And then, Waterfront Cafe, small selection, a real small artisan cheese, usually farmstead, so the one that are right on the farm. Smaller quantities, but outstanding cheese.
And they show up at the farmer's market, too.
Farmers market, and there's still like all the big stores as well. But when you go to the big stores, ask them to get the cheese you want. Get them to list our Canadian cheese.
Right.
Because we make amazing cheese in Canada. We just don't see them around because they choose to buy some other ones.
Some of the big
sometimes.
suppliers like Saputo and
Yeah, so that's what we'll see everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you want to taste different things, ask for them. They'll bring it in for you.
Step outside, try something different. Same with your beers, too.
Oh,
There's a
yes.
funky wall of beers at Metro Liquor. So pair it up. Have some fun with your new great experience with cheese and beer. David Baudouin, thank you so much.
Thank
he
you, David.
is the
Thank you,
Squeaky
Tim.
Cheese Guy.
Thank
this
you,
is
Jim.
an eye-opener.
SqueakyCheese.ca for more and to connect with David. Jim Martin and the Metro Minglers coming up next.